What if I told you that a single book, hidden from classrooms, erased from syllabi, and blacklisted by gatekeepers, held the power to rewrite everything we know about African history? A book so dangerous, it threatened centuries of colonial lies. That book is Destruction of Black Civilization. And the truth inside, it didn't just expose how Africa was betrayed. It revealed how Africa once ruled the world. This is the story they never wanted you to read. But today, we're opening the pages. What if I told you that a book which could change everything you know about African history was deliberately erased from public view? Let's uncover the hidden truth about destruction of Black civilization. Most of us never hear about it. We study world history, and African history is barely a chapter, if it's mentioned at all. But there's one book that breaks it all down. Destruction of Black Civilization, written by Chancellor Williams, challenges everything we've been told about African history. So why was it banned? And why was the knowledge it held considered so dangerous? Today, we're going to break down the reasons why this book was suppressed and what the world didn't want you to know. Published in 1971, the book examines the rich history of African civilizations and the forces that led to their downfall. Chancellor Williams critiques both external invasions and internal corruption, laying out how colonialism, slavery, and strategic divide and conquer tactics brought empires like Nubia, Kemet, Carthage, and Ghana to their knees. These weren't tribal backwaters. They were scientifically, architecturally, and economically advanced societies. Williams systematically destroys the myth of Africa as a primitive continent and forces readers to confront how history has been manipulated. Egypt, in his telling, wasn't just the origin of pharaohs and pyramids. It was an African superpower. And not just in monuments, but in medicine, mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy. But colonialism didn't just rob Africa of land and resources. It robbed Africa of memory. And Williams's work goes far beyond what most textbooks dare to include. So why was destruction of Black civilization suppressed? Because it directly threatened the colonial narrative. At the time of its release, many Western scholars still promoted the belief that Africa contributed little to world civilization. The book made people uncomfortable. It disrupted the myth that progress flowed only from Europe outward. Williams challenged academia, media, and political systems that benefited from portraying Africa as a cultural void. And this wasn't just about dusty bookshelves, it was about identity. The book didn't just claim African greatness, it demanded recognition. It revealed that the narrative of the Dark Continent wasn't a mistake, it was a strategy. And that strategy was built to justify exploitation, racism, and global inequality. Look at school curriculums today. How often do you see this book in a syllabus? Rarely. And that's not an accident. The truth is inconvenient. Because destruction of Black civilization doesn't just show that Africa was great. It shows that it was central to the human story. It proves that a world without African innovation is a world without progress. Despite efforts to bury it, the book is now a cornerstone of African historical study. It's ignited a new wave of Pan-Africanism, inspired Afrocentric education, and empowered Black scholars around the world to reclaim the narrative. Social media has played a major role in this revival. Clips, quotes, and breakdowns of Williams's work are spreading across TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, reaching an audience that traditional academia never could. Young people today aren't waiting for permission. They're digging into the work, building on it, and demanding a new history, one where Africa isn't footnoted, but front and center. What Williams sparked in 1971 is now a full-blown movement. But let's be clear, destruction of black civilization doesn't just talk about what was lost, it honors what survived. In the face of colonization, many African civilizations didn't vanish. They fought, resisted, adapted, and left behind legacies that still shape the world. The Great Zimbabwe Ruins, the Pyramids of Kush, the manuscripts of Timbuktu, the maritime knowledge of the Swahili coast. This wasn't primitive, it was advanced, it was powerful, it was hidden, and is re-emerging. As we unearth these forgotten truths, something deeper begins to happen. A new generation finds pride in their roots. Movements form, voices rise, films, books, documentaries, all aiming to correct the record. Across Africa and the diaspora, people are saying, "We know who we are, and we're not asking for your approval." Chancellor Williams didn't just write a history book, he wrote a weapon made of knowledge. And that's why it was feared, because the people who know their past are far harder to control. But here's the bigger lesson. When you silence truth, you only make it louder. You only make people more curious. And once people start to question, once they start to read for themselves, it's over for the old system. The curtain is pulled back, and now we're all watching. So what can you do? Start by reading the book. Challenge what you've been taught. Share what you've learned. Support the scholars and educators still fighting to teach this history in full. Every time you speak up, every time you question the old story, you're helping to rebuild what was torn down. This isn't just about Africa, it's about all of us. Because when one group's history is erased, the entire human story becomes distorted. Understanding Africa's true past is understanding our collective past and our shared future. So the next time someone tells you Africa has no history, remind them of Chancellor Williams. Remind them of the knowledge that couldn't be buried forever. And remind them that truth always finds its way back to the light. Want to be part of the movement? Hit subscribe, dive deeper, and let's keep uncovering the stories they tried to erase. The real question isn't whether Africa had greatness. The question is, why did they try so hard to hide it?